Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode. Sorry, can you hear an echo? I believe there's an echo in my house at the moment. Let me just, excuse me one moment. I'm back. Okay, so where were we? Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good whatever time of day it may be, wherever you are. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Family Health Show, True Temperance International, the Family Health Show, wrapping up season 2 now with Fearfully and Wonderfully Made, Know Your Body. Now that's the title of this current season, but I think it's going to be one that you can't really do away with because it's all about our fearfully and wonderfully made bodies. That's where our health impacts. So it'll be interesting to find out what the next topic season is going to be. Okay, so maybe you can throw some suggestions our way as interesting titles. But just hold tight because there will be a new season starting in October. Okay, so welcome for those of you who are joining us for the first time. My name is Sharon, I'm your host, and I do believe we have a co-host. I'm pretty sure we do, but this is an opportunity for the co-host to reveal who they are. Drum roll, and I will keep quiet.
Good afternoon, everyone. Your co-host is Shirlene.
Okay, thank you, Shirlene, our co-pilot for today. Right, and we do have a presenter who's going to be coming on very shortly. So we'll introduce you to our presenter. And for some, you've probably known him. Most of you probably recognize him, but you didn't know he was coming on today, unless you saw the poster. And then we'll go through the promos and then we'll come back to our presenter. So, presenter, please switch your camera on. Okay, and can you unmute? So here we have our presenter, Colin Gordon.
Hi, Sharon. Hi, everybody. Hello, Shirley and all administrators. Great to be here.
Hi, Colin.
Hi there.
We're looking forward to a we'll find out, a very interesting and power-packed presentation, which I'm sure is ready to be delivered. But before we dive into that, we are going to have some questions for you, but we'll do the promos first and then we'll find out about you just before you speak. Okay?
Go.
So, let's go on to our promo. Can I even work this thing? Here we go. So, as you can see, today's presentation, Shirlene, can you just speak on this one, please?
So we have Dr. Colin Gordon with us this afternoon. It'll be in 2 parts, so he'll be on today and in 2 weeks' time. So next week we don't have a show, but then the following week we will have Dr. Colin on with us again. So he's for the 2 parts. It's I like this statement. He says, time and health are 2 precious assets that we don't fully recognize and fully appreciate until they have been fully depleted. So 2 parts. The first one is, have you got a sweetheart? And if not, don't waste your breath. And then part 2, will this be the best seminar on rest ever? So sounds very interesting, and I am interested to hear what Dr. Colin has to say.
Definitely, yeah. And as he is depicted in this poster, he's dreaming about come apart and rest a while. And that's something that we're all looking for. Well, all of us on TTI are looking forward to it, and hopefully the rest of our family, those of you who have booked to come along, we're looking forward to our come apart and rest a while. And those of you who don't even know what it is, it's our health retreat that's starting on the 29th of August, running to the 4th of September. There's how many places are left, Shirley? Not many.
We probably have, until we have a meeting tomorrow, we may only have about 15 spaces left.
Okay, so if you haven't thought about it, you got to think quickly. Okay, because we have a wonderful health retreat coming up, and we'll share with you a poster shortly, possibly just before we come off air. Okay, so that's our slide. So our disclaimer, as we always say on True Temperance International, we always run a disclaimer because we don't want people to come away and said, well, on TTI, they told me this. Oh, TTI, for those of you who don't know, stands for True Temperance International. We have a group of friends who are in ministry together, not just here in the UK where most of us are, but we're also based, we have friends who are based in South Africa and in the Caribbean and anywhere else that I missed out. I think that's it.
No, that's it.
But then we have a family of TTI attendees from all over the globe. So that's why we are True Temperance International. Okay, so the disclaimer says as follows: only a physician can diagnose, treat and prescribe for illness or diseases. Any information disclosed or discussed at the TTI Zoom talk show is for educational and informational purposes only. Therefore, we're asking that you please continue to seek professional medical advice from your general practitioner regarding any illness or disease that you may be suffering from. Okay, thank you. Charlene.
Okay, so part of TTI, we have Telegram groups. This is we set this up because after the show, we thought it'd be nice to still interact, or if anyone has any questions that they can ask on these Telegram groups. So we have the spiritual health group. This is for anyone in terms of when it comes to words of encouragement, prayer, words of encouragement, prayer. We do book reading / Bible study type of thing weekly. That's with Remnant Connections. So they're on the Great Controversy. So information is uploaded onto the spiritual health group. Then we have separate men and women, men and women's wellness groups, where we discuss whether it's a challenge after the presenter on the family show. They may set a challenge, and then we, if anyone has any questions or need any help, and we talk about that on our on these two platforms, the men and the women's wellness groups. So please, if you're on YouTube, please take the URL, or those who are on Zoom as well, take the URL and please join us if you have not already.
Thank you, Charlene. And these are on Telegram, so you would need to download your Telegram, the Telegram app on your device. Right, so moving swiftly on. This is happening very soon. It's so soon that it's going to be tomorrow. Okay, so Janine, who's part of our True Temperance International Council group, she is running a Plant Easy is one of her ministries, and she's running a raw food edition class, learning how to make delicious raw recipes and discover the benefits of raw food. And there are many benefits. One of them, shall I let you into a secret? Energy. Okay, so much to be learned from this class. So please contact Janine. There's a phone number there. There is a cost, and it is on Zoom. So wherever in the world you are, you know, you can join in and learn so much that raw food has to offer. And sometimes people say, oh, I don't like raw food. Do you eat fruit? How many of you cook your oranges or your lemons? Okay. Right, so you'd be surprised how much you can do with raw foods. It's not just about having lemons, oranges, you know, fruits and salads. There's a lot more you can do. So if you want to find out more, tune in. And then Mercy's Door. This is with Louise Reed, her ministry, Mercy's Door Ministries, Health Ministries. She's running a colon gallbladder, well, not just Mercy's Door, in collaboration with other ministries. So we have Association of Health Reformers, so that's Sister Joan Cornwall. She's a herbalist and medical missionary. We have Dr. Louisa Magapi from South Africa, from the Kwamkwamani Wellness Institute. She will be on this course. And Sonia Barnes, who you heard the last time we were on, giving us a presentation. She's a nutritionist, and Sister Louise Reed. So there's a 12-day cleanse, and it's 12, normally it's a 10-day, but it's 12 days this time because there is an inclusion of the gallbladder. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure that's why it's the 12-day. So it's a colon and liver flush and the gallbladder. These organs, they do need looking at, and they do so much for us, and we don't even realize. Not until they get sick, and then we realize, oh, I really needed that. Okay, so how to look after them. There's a course, it's £150. It's there. All the information is on the slide for you. And in terms of who to contact, it's on the other side, Louise, there's a phone number. That's a UK-based number. So if you're dialing from abroad, remember to put +44 and then drop the 0 at the beginning. So it's +44 7833 497 532. Okay, Charlene?
Okay, so we have so we have our 10-day colon and liver detox. So not the gallbladder. This one's just a colon and the liver, and it's running from the September the 18th to the 27th. 27th. So please contact Louise again if you would like to take part in the colon and liver detox program. And it is worldwide. She can ship it over to you if you're not in the UK.
Okay, just speaking on liver, those of you who are unaware, last week, in fact, I could have shared a photo on here, but never mind. Last week, a few of us from TTI were out in Humberside camping with some Pathfinders, and Charlene and I, we did an honor with them. And one of the things we looked at was the liver, and we questioned them on how many different functions does your liver get involved in with your body. And they were really intrigued. They were getting way below the number. In fact, I was intrigued too. So it was if you know the answer, you can put it in the chat and we can let you know, higher, lower, whatever. But we had a wonderful time. Was it your first time camping, Charlene?
I did say yes, but I think I did do it way back. But first time camping with children, yes.
Was you a child when you camped the last time?
Yeah, I think, I was probably in my early teens then.
Okay, and when you said with children, you mean with your own children?
Yeah, with my children. Yeah. First time with my own children.
Yeah, and God bless us, we had lovely weather. Although it was wet, it was warm, so we weren't cold, and it was good. It was good.
Yeah, it was nice.
There weren't any major accidents or anything like that, so we had a wonderful time camping with the Pathfinders from up north, Hull, Bradford, Sheffield, and where was the other place? Leeds, that's right, yes. Leeds. Okay, I digress. And so we said we're looking forward to coming apart and rest. We're not coming, I'm not going to fall apart, but come apart as in come away from your busy schedules, your day-to-day, Monday to Friday, usual earning, and rest a bit, because it's so important. So we have this event, for those of you who are unaware, from the 29th of August to the 4th of September in the beautiful countryside of Cefnley in Wales. And as you can see, we have a host of presenters, and that's not everybody. We have others who will be helping out with the workshops and doing devotions, spiritual talks in the morning and in the evening, and in between we have time to rest. So we're not going to pack the program so that you've got no time to do what it says on the poster. There is time to fellowship and rest, and there will also be stalls and things that you can just learn a lot about with regards to cooking demonstrations and setting up a sanitarium, physiotherapy, health checks. You can have some consultations as well. There'll be lots of people with lots of information who could help you in your health journey and your family as well. So if you want more information, there is a number there, 077 337 87061. Okay, so that's that for you. And lastly, Shirley,
we thank you all for your support, whether it's through prayer, through sharing our posters every week. Well, not every week now, but when we do come on, sharing when we are on, inviting your friends and family, financial support. We thank you all for supporting TTI through this 2-year journey as a team. So we thank you once again.
Right, so I will stop the share. There we go. It's funny how when we do that, I always say, I'm going to stop the share. Well, that's what I do, just in case I get it wrong, something goes wrong, and then people know I'm trying. So, right, we have somebody who is unmuted and for good reason. So, before that, last time we were on, we had a challenge from Sonia, and it was to have copper-rich foods. Did anybody do that? Or did anybody find out what were your copper-rich foods? I did share something on some of the groups. I don't know if people are able to unmute. Hopefully they are. Did anybody find out what you could do for your copper-rich foods? What was the title last time, Charlene? Can you remember? Put you on the spot. Yeah, I put you on the spot. And I just took it off.
No, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think I need some ginkgo.
Yeah, and you got young children as well. So I'll let you
remember.
Okay, well, I discovered that potato and sunflower seeds, and there were a few other things that I put on the chat that were copper-rich foods. So I did try to increase my intake of that because we do need more of that in our diet. If you got enough, then obviously you don't need more because you need to be temperate. But it was something that was, if you missed it, we do have a YouTube channel. So you can always go back and type in True Temperance International on your device in YouTube, and you can look at our past shows. There's over 100 videos. So there'll be something for you that you'd be interested in, I'm sure, whether it's your health, your children's health, your men's health, women's health, lifestyle diseases. There's many on there to choose from. So have a look through on the YouTube channel, and please, you can subscribe, share, and like. Okay, so now we're moving over to Dr. Colin Gordon. I have definitely one question, but I'm sure the second one will come to me whilst you're answering the first question. Now, for those of you who don't know, today is a special day for one of the islands in the Caribbean. And the colours on Colin's tie and the flag in the background is a bit of a giveaway. So I was going to ask, where do you hail from, as in, prior to being in the UK? But I think you kind of gave us the answer with your tie. So let us know, those of you who don't know, what's going on or what went on 60 years ago.
A bit like Lenny Henry, I suppose. If you were told where do you come from, go back to where you came from. Lenny Henry would have said Dudley. I would have said Wolverhampton. So I kind of grew up in Wolverhampton. I spent some time in Bristol in my younger years. But in terms of family origins, that goes back to Jamaica, West Jamaica, particularly Montego Bay, St. James, St. Elizabeth, Hanover has been my prime areas. But you will recognize that Jamaica right now celebrating quite a number of things, not just success in Commonwealth Games, but more importantly, 60 years of independence as an island country. So there are a lot of celebrations going around this country, Jamaica particularly, but also around the world as Jamaica celebrates its 60th year of independence.
That's right. Okay. And so now you've given me the answer, you've given me the question for my second question. In your response, you gave me the question. So it is True Temperance International. We promote New Start, which is it's an acronym for the 8 health doctors: nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, air, rest, and trust in divine power. And so I'm going to focus on one of them, which is E for exercise. Okay. Now, what is your favorite type of exercise and why? This is so we can get to learn a little bit about our presenter.
Oh dear. I know what the answer is meant to be, of which I do enjoy a nice walk and in the hills or at the seafront. I happen to live about a mile or two from the North Sea. If I go one direction, the Thames River, if I go another direction, I'm right at the very corner of the southeast of England in that regard. And so I do enjoy those walks in the hills. But if I'm honest with you, in terms of exercise that I tend to do more often, if I'm not outside, I'm exercising inside, obviously. And I like to I have a treadmill. I will go on the treadmill. I will look at the, I will be able to walk or run in different parts of the world based on the screen that's in front of me, get myself all wired up, check on my numbers, my figures, and so on. So I tend to do that in terms of my exercise that I do on a more regular basis. Other than that, yes, I've enjoyed walking, running, skiing, swimming. Those are some
Wow.
things I've enjoyed in times past.
Excellent, excellent. That's a great, interesting answer there. So walking and treadmill walking indoors, so walking indoors and outdoors. When you said, oh, and laughed, I was thinking, what's he going to say, Zumba? Hey,
I've dabbled.
okay. All right, then. So at this point, we are going to hand the microphone over to you, Colin, and you're going to tell us a little bit about, do you have a sweetheart? If not, what was it?
Don't waste your breath.
Okay, over to you.
Thank
And
you
if you
very
do have questions, in fact, Colin, you can let people know what to do with their questions as we go along, or if you want to save it all up until the end, please just say.
So I am very happy for questions to be put into the chat as and when they come up. I will be happy to welcome questions even as we go through the presentation, so that your questions are alive and real and can be dealt with as we go through it. And that way we learn off each other in that regard. It's meant to be an interactive presentation, so I will be inviting comments and your involvement as we go along. So that'll be fine. On the point though of what's happened previously, Sharon, can I just bring in one or two things, just to recap on one or two things, and then I will proceed with the presentation. When we were doing salt, I was wanting to say something about salt and potassium and sodium levels and so on. If I can just say something about my favorite salt as well. I know that some people, I went to the cupboard a little while ago, the kitchen cupboard, and I saw that there were a number of salts in there. Not that I necessarily continuously use, but I saw this one, the sea salt, that some people tend to use, and I'm not necessarily a great fan of this. Some people think that sea salt is better. It's still sodium chloride. It can still affect your heart levels, your blood pressure levels. They say that sea salt may have some additional trace elements in there, but I've still got questions about that. Some other people have just found this in the kitchen cupboard as well too. Himalayan rose pink salt. Some will say this is better because it's got some additional trace elements in there, some sodium and potassium and so on. But again, I'm still not convinced because it's still primarily made up of sodium and chlorine, which is the basis of regular table salt. Although it might be better than common salt, but it could be better still. My favorite salt, if I have to use salt, and you don't have to use salt, but if you feel that you do need it, is this one, which I found in numerous supermarkets. It's called low salt salt, which means that, well, as it says on the packet, 60% less sodium. I think I picked it. I think I got this from Waitrose, but it can otherwise be bought in your regular stores, as does Tesco's, at least in the UK. But otherwise, check out that this has less sodium than regular table salt, sea salt, or even rock salt. What it does have instead is potassium and magnesium as your positive ions, to go with your chloride anions as well too. So this on the back, it says that one regular serving of salt has 510 milligrams of sodium. This one serving of low salt has 170 milligrams of sodium. And it's the sodium that causes most of the damage in terms of water retention, that leads to increased blood volume, but in the same volume of space, increasing blood pressure. It's the sodium at the cellular level, at the cell membrane level, involved in the active transport of water into your cells that will cause you to have the increased chance of blood pressure, this particular type of salt, if you have to have salt, cuts that down significantly. So that's coming back from either the last time or from the time we spoke a couple of weeks ago. Just wanted to throw that one in. You're more than welcome. Okay, so on to the subject of today. And as I begin to share my screen with you, the question that was put out there was, do you have a sweetheart? Of course, I'm not promoting sweetheart in the way that it might normally be understood and be perceived. Of course, I'm referring to your own actual heart, the part of your body that goes lub-dub, lub-dub, lub-dub inside your thoracic cavity. So my question remains, do you have a sweetheart? I mean, is your heart sweet? I mean, is it ticking over nicely? So we're looking at that subject today, the health of your heart, but also we are looking at, well, the second half of that, if not, don't waste your breath, how not to waste your breath, how to make the most of your breathing. So we're looking at a number of issues, but the primary focus for today is looking at time and how time is something quite critical to the way that we're made up. God, I believe, is a God of time. The God who made us, the God who formed us, the God who put us together, the God who got our DNA together, is a God who works according to time. He works according to time in terms of the phases of time of the moon, the sun, the stars, the days. God seems to have some kind of clock that he works to. He is always on time. And time is something, as a precious commodity that is given to us. So do not take advantage or disadvantage of time. By the way, to start off with a couple of conundrums, and unmute if you wish to. Do you know the answer to that one? Why did the man throw the clock out the window? Unmute if you remember. Come on, anybody? Why did the man throw the clock out of the window?
He wanted to see the time fly.
Excellent. He wanted to see if time flies. And indeed, time is flying, though I must crack on. But when it comes to time, what is the one thing that man cannot do? And here's your picture clue. The one thing that we can't do is that we can't hold back time. If that's what you're going to say. As try as we may, as young as we want to be forever and forever, we think we can do as much as we can here right now in keeping ourselves living for longer, but we cannot hold back time. Time will take its toll. So
Colin,
how do you make the best use of time? Was there another comment?
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Colin. Just seeing that image, it's really messing with my head because you're not used to seeing the clock hands go around that way around. So it's really, it's making me dizzy, in fact. It just doesn't look normal.
Well, what is not normal, what does cause people to be in a spin is when they think that they can hold back time, or that they, but that usually comes out when they are either frustrated or thinking that there's something that they can do to hold time, when really and truly what we need to be doing right now is making the best use of time that we have here right now, rather than waiting until we think that we can do things in the last minute in terms of maintaining good health. And that's the time you see people start running around from one doctor to the next, spending lots of money, thinking that they can live for another week longer, another day longer. And that's what people will do. They try to hold back time, and that's why it does mess with people. Best thing to do is to make the best use of the time that we have here now. And so I am going to be looking at how we should be measuring our body activities each second, each minute, each hour. And that's what we're going to be concentrating on this week. And then the next time we meet, we'll be looking, well, what happens at the end of the day? what's going to happen at the end of the week, or what should be happening at the end of the month. I don't know if time will allow. I know that there will be some theologians here. I even see a pastor or two that might be here. But if so, we'll be looking what can be happening at the end of the year. And if there are any leftovers, what should we be doing, or what might be happening at the end of 7 years? Or what could be happening at the end of 70 years? Or would you be able to answer what could be happening at the end of 700 years? Or even at the end of 7,000 years? I'm not too sure if we can be looking at rest in that long-term projection, but let's look at the rest that we should be enjoying here and now. Let me just back up. Each second, what is it in our bodies that be taking a rest at least once a second? Shirley?
The heart?
Exactly, thank you. The heart. The heart is something of amazement. The Bible speaks, at least proverbially, of your heart, that you should guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. In one literal sense, I guess, guard the avenues of your mind, because everything that you do, everything that you think, everything that you perceive relates to what you feed your mind. But proverbially, we can talk about the heart, and now the heart is responsible for giving the vital elements, substances, and especially oxygen, as we have discussed numerous times before. And it does so in a very methodical, rhythmical way. You can see, I mean, most of you will have at least seen either directly or perhaps on some TV show of this, these waves that come from the electrocardiogram. In the EU, in the UK, we might call that an ECG. I believe elsewhere, America may refer to it as an EKG, the electrocardiogram. And that tells you about how the heart is operating, how it's functioning. Very crucial, because it gives the understanding of the electrical impulses that are going to the heart and around the heart. The heart consists of two chambers at the top, two chambers at the bottom. The two chambers at the top called auricles or atria, and the two chambers at the bottom being called ventricles. I remember them because ventricles has a begins with the letter V, and the letter V points downwards, doesn't it? Whereas atricles or atria or auricles have the beginning of the letter A, which points upwards. So that will help you to remember. And then you've got going to the heart electrical impulses, going through a vagus nerve, a crucial vagus nerve, going into, I believe, what's called the Purkinje tissue. That's very connected to the heart, that will control in a very careful and controlled way the pulses from the top to the bottom of the heart, ensuring that blood goes from the atria at the top, pumped down to the ventricles at the bottom, that go out from the heart, either to the lungs and coming back to the heart, or to the rest of the body through the aorta. So, but this heart, the heart, and by the way, just rolling backwards, just so that you have an understanding of what they all are. I mean, they do have names. This very first is going faint there now. This first bump is called the P. Then you've got a Q and an R and an S, the trough and the peak, the very tall peak. And then this bump at the end is called the T. So there are various aspects of the heartbeat wave that will tell you how your heart is operating and how it should be operating in an efficient and effective way. But just look at those numbers there for a second. An average rate of 80 times per minute. I say average because even though when you're sitting down at rest, it may be nearer to 70. Some people may be fortunate enough to have a lower heartbeat rate, but if you're active, like myself, talking or doing something else and you're sitting down, then yes, 80 times a minute is what your heart will be doing in terms of heartbeat rate. But that equates to 115,000 beats per day. and whatever your age is, multiply it by 42 million times, approximately, to determine how many times your heart has been beating so far. And for a human life, about 3 billion times, pumping an amount of blood that is equivalent to about 1 million barrels of blood. And that is when you are at rest. If you can do this with your little finger, even your little finger, after say 100 times, will soon get tired. That's your little finger, 100 times. Your heart is doing this 80 times a minute. So that requires a different design for your heart. You've got basically 3 different types of muscles, as I understand. You have your smooth muscle, your involuntary muscle that works your intestines primarily, the muscles that pushes your food through by way of I think they call it peristaltic movements, that the wave-like movements that carries your food from your throat right through to your rectum. But that's not muscle that you can control. Your muscles that you can control, they are voluntary or called striated muscles because they're striped, and that's obviously the muscles that you've got control over. But the problem with those muscles is that, well, they soon get tired. So you have your involuntary muscles that work all the way through the day, but they work very slowly. And then you've got your voluntary muscles that can move quite quickly, but they get tired quickly. And then you've got this third type of muscle, the cardiac muscle. It's a very different type of muscle. And that's how we are indeed fearfully and wonderfully made, because it's this type of muscle that we need to take care of, the muscle which is primarily what your heart consists of, that is able to produce this heartbeat rate at that rate. Now, it's not always as neat and as clean as the P curves and the QRS wave and the T curves that you have. The reason why you go to your doctors and they wire you all up so that you can have the ECG taken is so that they can look and see whether or not you do have the normal heartbeat rate that we were talking about, or whether, and this is what it can show as, all these different types of waves. I guess the closest perhaps that you might be seeing here could possibly be your sinus tachycardia type of a heartbeat rate you're seeing here. Bradycardia as well, there's a slower heartbeat rate. But you've heard about heart flutters, where there is not the consistency and continuity of heartbeat rates. Remember I said there's the P, and then there's the QRS, and then there's the T. The P wave is when the atria contract so that they are essentially doing a relatively smaller job of pushing the blood from the top of the heart to the bottom of the heart. And then the QRS aspects of the wave, where it's a lot more electrical activity going on, that is where the ventricles kicked into action. And that is now about to push the blood around to other parts of the body. The lower parts of the heart have got a lot more muscle that is responsible for pushing the blood through the aorta and through the pulmonary artery towards other parts of the body. Then there'll be 2 things that your doctor will be looking out for, is to be listening to see if there is the proper, and it is called, even officially, technically is called lub-dub, 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 as the blood's going through. If it's not going through like that, if it is more like a sh-dub, 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 or even lub, 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 then it means that there's something going on with the valves of your heart. The valves of your heart, like any other kind of valve, I suppose, water valve or even electricity valve, is supposed to allow the blood to go in one direction only. And so if they're hearing lub, sh, lub, sh, lub, sh, lub, sh, it means that there is blood that is squeezing back where it's not supposed to, therefore it reduces the efficiency of your blood and you're not getting as much of the oxygen around as you ought to. An indication that that's not happening properly would also be confirmed by these ECG rhythms that's over here on the right-hand side. And that's just to indicate that the vagus nerve, the Purkinje tissue, and the nerves around the heart are not firing as they ought to, at the right rate, the right speeds, and that would be an indication that indeed that there is something that's going wrong with your heartbeat rate. You can try it now if you wish. Give me back some feedback if you so wish. The heartbeat, you can feel it. Your radial artery in your wrist can take 2 fingers. That's one place where you can put your 2 fingers with your arm at rest, and you may pick up on a heartbeat rate. If you can't feel it there, you can try picking it up from your carotid artery by lifting up your head slightly. And just underneath there, just in the nape of the neck, you'll be able to feel the pulsing blood vessels there. One way to check is to see how many beats you have in 15 seconds and then multiply it by 4. That's a crude way of doing it. Or you may wish to just count how many beats you have in a minute. And what you were asking me a short while ago, Sharon, regarding my exercise, yes, I do enjoy a nice walk on the seafront, and that's all lovely and nice, but when I'm really serious about heartbeat rate, etc., I will wear something not too different from those bras. I will wear a bra, not a regular bra that women wear. I don't usually wear that, except perhaps on a Saturday night. Anyway, the kind of bra I'm talking about is the sports bra that's used by sports people, that rests over the heart, that takes a measure of your heartbeat as you are exercising. And you can connect those to a mobile phone app or some other computer-based device, or even some treadmills. If you are one who frequents a gym, they will have those at those heartbeat rate monitors that will check your heartbeat as you are exercising, and then give you some immediate feedback, as well as store that information so that you know how your exercise is going. Ideally, you should be able to exercise at a certain rate without pushing it too far. The useful feature that I have on the treadmill that I prefer to use is one that allows me to do exercise, but keeping my heartbeat rate constant. So what you have in front of you here is what your heartbeat rate should be like ordinarily. So looking at your age, it does vary according to age. Typically, the younger you are, a child is likely to have a higher heartbeat rate than an adult. But if you fall into any one of these groups here, depending on your fitness, if you're a particularly fit person, you might notice that your heartbeat rate may well be, say, 65 or below, but typically your heartbeat rate should be in the region of 70, 72, maybe 73. If it is appreciably higher than that, then you need to be looking at what you're not doing right. This, by the way, is when you are fully at rest. By that, I mean perhaps lying down, not having just eaten, not having just taken any exercise, Certainly not somebody like me talking and thinking and working even as I'm sitting, but rather when you are completely at rest, both in body and in spirit, in mind, where you're able to take your heartbeat rate, looking at those numbers and thinking, well, what is your heartbeat rate when you are at rest? When you are exercising and you're able to take your heartbeat rate, you can perhaps do so using, as I said, using one of those sports bras or heart measuring devices, or you with the treadmill that I use also allows me to take a heartbeat rate as I'm touching those devices, or you can do so by taking a measure of your heartbeat rate by touching those pressure points. A fourth thing that I personally enjoy having, now some people have smartwatches. They are perhaps a little bit more expensive, but they do a great deal more than a regular watch. I know some people like them and some people don't. I personally do like mine because my particular, not only can it come up with particular colors if I wanted to, with it saying happy 60th Independence or happy Sabbath, but other than that, I do have a function on this that measures blood pressure. And if I click on this even right now, don't know if I should even do this live, but because I am feeling a tad bit stressed and I am talking and I'm not supposed to talk whilst I measure my blood pressure. It's telling me not to move or to talk, but I'm doing it anyway to see what it comes out with. But as I am talking, just to inform you that whether it be an Apple Watch or the kind of watch that I have here is a Samsung smartwatch. There are other watches, I'm not too sure if Fitbits do it, and then there are other dedicated watches that will allow you to do a measure. They're not necessarily expensive, but they can be useful devices for you to determine how your heartbeat rate is doing. This particular one, if you are into Samsung devices, also does an ECG as well too. So you can actually touch the side of the watch, your watch, and it gives you an ECG measure, measuring the quality of your heartbeat all at the same time. So it is something that perhaps you could invest in. The reason why it's not giving me a measurement, as I say, you're meant to be at rest and not meant to be talking. But when you do use one of these, you can link it up to your phone, that you can keep an accurate measure of what your heartbeat rate is throughout the day, as well as what it's like when you're doing activities. When you are doing activities, you should aim to have a heartbeat rate approximately double what it is at rest for at least 20 minutes, ideally 20 minutes per day, at least 20 minutes 3 times a week, that you should maintain that double heartbeat rest or double the heartbeat at rest when you are resting, so that you are working your heart, you're giving your heart that exercise that's worthwhile for a sustained period. So it is something to add to your exercise regime, to pay attention to what's actually going on inside of your body, and particularly what's happening with your heart. Were there any questions that have come up so far?
They may be measuring, Colin.
Okay. Oh, that's okay.
I've not got a question, but I did put a comment in the chat. It was to do with my heart rate as I was measuring it.
Yeah.
In fact, no, there is a question. I'll put that in there as well. So basically, I put a few minutes ago, just measured my pulse and it was 88 beats per minute. Okay, that was my expression. And then I said, I guess it wasn't a resting heart rate. I know it wasn't, but I thought I'd just measure it anyway, just to see what it was, just out of interest.
Well, that's okay. I mean, my just hearing my voice causes some people's heartbeat rate to just rise anyway. I just stress so many people anyhow. So it's quite normal that it's going to go up even while sitting down. So you're absolutely right, Sharon. It should be measured when you are at rest, when you're sitting down in your comfy chair or even lying on your bed, and just doing the check then. Because if you're resting and it's high, then we do have a problem.
But some people, I mean, I know some people do have a higher rate and average their higher rate. Some people have a slower resting heart rate than others based on their fitness levels, and some people have a slower rate because their heart's just not working properly. If you can have a slow rate and it's not excellent, you can have a slow rate and it's actually not working properly.
Well, if you think about it, the slowest possible rate that a heart can beat at, the slowest possible rate, indicates that you're not living at all. So obviously there is a minimum, but looking at these figures, measures of fitness do include heartbeat rate, in that the fitter you are, the healthier you are, requiring less demands on your heart because you're so efficient, does indicate that you can be having a heartbeat rate even as low as 50, 55, this might indicate, if you're a very prominent and strong athlete. And I mean, I have times past when I have measured, it has been even in that area. Obviously, it's got to be within certain parameters, that you are exercising, that you do have a regime. If you're not following those kind of patterns, and yet your heartbeat rate is particularly low, then I guess, yes, we've got an issue there. The same can be said of blood pressure, although I am talking primarily today about time and timing things, and how you should do things in time. But similarly with blood pressure, the healthier you are, then you should have a blood pressure that is, if you have the equipment, should be 120 over 80 typically, although people who are healthier will have a lower blood pressure levels. If you do that, then again, I do happen to have them on my desk at the moment. This is the wrist sphygmomanometer that some people use, the one that goes on the wrist, and you press the button, pumps it up, and it measures your heartbeat rate and your blood pressure. But I would say that it is not particularly reliable. It can give you an indication. It might even give you a scare if it is even working, but there are some people who use that. More accurately, I would recommend, say, the type that you would have on your on your arm, that would go over your arm. If you can afford one of these, or if you can get access to one of these, well, this gives a fairly accurate measure of, again, heartbeat rate and blood pressure levels. I guess probably would be best of all is if you have had blood pressure issues, we do have hypertension, you do want to get it fully checked out, and you do go to your GP, it is possible that they will hook you up with a 24-hour monitor, whereby it is measuring your heartbeat rate throughout the day, throughout the night, whether you're active or at rest. And that's usually the best way of identifying whether or not you are within the parameters that you should be. That's the most accurate. The wristwatch method, if you do go down that line, is helpful. It is calibrated off these machines, and so it will work to some extent, and also will give you your blood oxygen levels as well too, if you want to invest in one of those. But there are a number of devices that you can use for measuring your pulse, as well as blood pressure, and then any other blood related measurements that you can take.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the reason why I asked that question was because back in the days when I was in my early 20s, I'd say early to mid 20s, and I was doing my sports science degree, I was, you'd measure, because there was practical aspects of the degree, and you'd measure your pulse, you'd take your pulse, and there was all these other people that had granted, I was a mature student, but I was still mid-20s.
Mm.
And they all had pulses which were a lot slower than mine. And I kind of worried. I was thinking, why is my pulse so high? Because at that time I was quite active. I was sporty,
Okay.
and thought, this seems like somebody who's dying, you know. Well, that was my impression anyway. But clearly there is a range, and there's a healthy range. And all through my life, I've always thought, my pulse is a bit high. But I know for me, my baseline pulse is a bit high. And there could be reasons, and I know this isn't a private consultation right now, but I was just saying that in case there are some individuals who, like me, have a bit of a higher rate.
Yeah.
Slight concern, because I always think, well, maybe there's so many beats that your body has, that your heart has, and when your time's up, it's like, okay, mine was going a bit too quick, so I've reached the end of mine.
It's, well, as you rightly say, although it's not a private personal consultation as such, but that's what it should be if you are concerned, because it can indeed be something very personal to you. But you need to know whether or not your heart is pulsing correctly, that you are getting the right ECG, the right nerve connections to your heart, and it's functioning as it's meant to. If there are any peculiarities relative to you, and there could be, then it's for you to check it out. Maybe you do have a higher pulse rate, but you are able to survive on that because you are making compensations for that. There are some people that, you know, they've got heart issues even from birth, whether it be the foramen ovale, the hole in the heart condition that some people have from early birth, from birth, from their early age. And if that's not being working correctly, but you've made compensations for it, then yes, there will be some abnormalities. So there can indeed be some peculiarities that are specific to you. But if you know that you haven't been exercising, that you're not eating correctly, and that you've got these exceptionally high rates, then you know that you need to do something about it.
Yep, and the disclaimer we read in the beginning: seek professional medical advice.
Indeed.
And there was 3 questions in the chat, and 1 hand was raised. Are you able to take any of those now?
I can do that very, very quickly if they are related to breathing. Sorry, to the heart. Yes.
Yeah. So the first one was, and you can say this one really quickly: how accurate are the ECG measures using these different devices like watches, and the bra type thing that he was talking about?
Right. So the ECG, as done medically, is very accurate. The watches and the straps and so on, they are often to be calibrated against these other measures. You can trust them to an extent. The watch, as I say, when it is calibrated, you will know whether or not it's going too high or too low. It's always best, of course, to be fully wired up to know that you are being accurately measured. But the heart, chest strap, the sports bra that are used by many sports people, especially on cricket pitches, football pitches, and so on, that you will see them wearing. That's what they're wearing, and it is serving a purpose. It is quite accurate. It is good for that purpose. These other watches, essentially, whether these or Fitbits, they are still just a guide, but they can do so much, such as to let you know, your quality of sleep, the amount of oxygen in your blood, and so on. So they do serve a multiple purpose.
Okay. The next question is, should you take, thanks, you answered my question. The next one is, should you take your pulse straight after eating a meal? I think you mentioned that one. And does it make a difference?
Yes, you should. You should take your heartbeat at rest, but you should also take your heartbeat when you are at stress. That's to say, as I was saying before, with those sports bra things or with your pulse, you should have an idea what is your heartbeat rate when you're putting your body through a certain stress. When I'm exercising, I like to keep my heartbeat at a constant, using one of those things, at approximately 140 beats per minute. and I maintain that for at least a 20-minute, 30-minute, or even 1 hour worth of exercise. If I'm going to 160, I'm going to start getting very tired too quickly, and I become more fatigued and therefore less efficient in my exercising. If I keep it at a steady 140, I can exercise for longer. If I am exercising but it's only at 100 or 120, I'm not pushing myself hard enough. If you've just eaten and you've taken your blood pressure or your heartbeat rate, and you're realizing all of a sudden, wait a second, it's at 140, 160, and all I've eaten was a sandwich, you should be mindful of that, because it's when people have put themselves through those paces that they will experience, whether it be a stroke or a heart attack. It's not so much when you are resting that you're going to get the heart attack as such, or the stroke as such. It's after you've caused yourself a certain amount of stress. That said, you can still have a heartbeat, a problem such as a stroke or a heart attack when you're resting, if those figures are too high, even when you're resting. And so when you're doing a blood pressure check, for example, and it's 120/80, you know that is quite normal, and that's fine. If your blood pressure happens to be, let's say, 150/80, yes, you should be mindful of what you're doing to be causing your blood to be forcing the blood through at such a high pressure. However, that lower figure of 80 is suggesting that at least the heart is not working so hard when it is at rest. But if your blood pressure is 150/110 or 120, it means that the heart is constantly under pressure. And so if the question is, should you take your blood pressure when you are exercising or when you've just eaten something, I think you should know what those figures are when you are putting your body through when I say a stress, even as much as walking or running or even eating, after eating something. I remember when you had a presentation on stress some time ago, and what is stress? If stress just causes your heartbeat to increase, consider that as being a stress on the heart. But stress is not necessarily bad. Stress can be good in that it causes you to be thinking quicker, to be acting quicker, but also to causing the heart to be pumping a little bit harder, a little bit faster for a certain length of time to strengthen the muscles before it returns back to rest again.
Okay, so it does make a difference, and depending on what you're trying to find out will determine when you should be taking your pulse.
Yes.
Okay, so Janet, but thank you for that answer as well. Janet had her hand up earlier. I'm not sure, it's gone down now. Janet, are you available to unmute and ask your question?
Hi, Colin. I was actually going to ask a question. But
hello, Cuz.
Hi there. but you've more than covered it. It was just with regards to having the low sort of readings outside of the norm, and it was with regards to a low one. So if you know you weren't doing any form of exercise and you were grossly overweight, but you had a pulse rate of in the athlete range, then obviously something's wrong. But you more than covered it, so it was about that really. That's why I took my hand down.
That's okay, and thank you. And it's not just what time, not just after an activity, but also what time of day. I think there are some figures to indicate that strokes and heart attacks, they're either going to be in the morning, first thing in the morning. If you haven't had a glass of water, for example, you haven't warmed yourself up, those incidents tend to happen at a certain time in the morning, and for others it could well be towards the end of the day. But there are some statistical figures indicating when are the times of day you are most prone to having a heart attack or a stroke. So it's good to take those measures, not just after certain activities, but also at certain times of the day, just to make sure that you're not peaking beyond that which should be accepted to be within normal range throughout the entire day. Essentially, you want to perhaps even catch yourself at your worst in terms of what is the highest blood pressure, the highest heartbeat rate, because beyond the worst, a problem is going to be occurring. Right, shall I press on? I shall then.
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you. So looking at what measures of time we should be taking a rest at least once per minute, once per second, and the importance of maintaining a steady heartbeat rate and keeping it as healthy as possible. And by the way, another point that's just coming to my mind regarding heartbeat rate in the animal world, it's been found that there is on average about the same amount of heartbeats rather, in a lifetime, at least for mammals, from a mouse right through to an elephant. A mouse has a very fast heartbeat rate. An elephant has a very slow heartbeat rate. But the mouse lives a lot shorter than the elephant. And when they've done all their calculations and statistics, etc., they've found that it's approximately the same number of heartbeats in the lifetime. And so therefore, if one's to follow through with that reasoning, lower your heartbeat rate through exercise, and it will extend your happiness and your healthiness, if the logic follows through. But that's something for you to check out for yourself. Let me move on to what we should be checking at least, say, if not once per minute, once an hour, once per hour also. And I've been talking for an hour. What should you have checked within that hour regarding what rest you should have taken? And I hope nobody's fallen asleep on me in the last hour or so. Also, what rest should you have checked upon in the last hour?
Water intake.
Water intake, even though that's a measure of water, you don't necessarily rest with your water. Let me give you a clue. Genesis 2:7. The Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. What can you be checking on at least? If you're not checking on it at least every minute, at least once an hour, what you should be doing a check on? Thank you, Shirley.
Your breathing.
Your breathing rate. Thank you, Rhonda. Your breathing rate. What's your breathing like? Now, I know your breathing. It should be fairly constant, fairly consistent in terms of breathing rate. And again, you can do some checks, but at rest, it's somewhere in the region of 18 breaths per minute. As this says there, even 20. Potentially much more than that, you know that you're not breathing correctly, unless again there's a good medical reason why that's the case. But a good breathing rate of 20 breaths per minute or 18 breaths per minute might be considered as being somewhat normal. Every single process in your body is dependent on your oxygen. This is one of the things that came out during COVID times. Measure your oxygen levels. I think somebody even talked about getting an oximeter. Again, one of these smart watches might even help you with that particular measurement, where you should have a 98% at least oxygen saturation level at any given time. You do need that oxygen for every intensive organ, but especially your brain that uses approximately 20% of the oxygen that you consume. Your heart, that we just mentioned, the heart itself, through its own coronary arteries, require that circulation to the heart itself. But other than that, you need that oxygen going out to the extreme of your bodies. We've talked about what it means to have cold hands and cold feet. If you do, then we've talked in previous weeks about the importance of just checking on your fingers and on your toes. If they're cold, it means it's not getting sufficient blood. If it's not getting sufficient blood, you're not getting sufficient oxygen. If you're not getting sufficient oxygen, your tissues in those extreme areas will be dying. And ask any mountaineer who goes to the extreme of going to places where the temperatures are extremely low, which parts of the bodies begin to drop off first. You need to keep those parts of the body very warm. And also importantly, oxygen shortage makes the muscles go stiff and tense and tired faster. The reason why people claim that they are having, what's that word, when people are not getting enough oxygen around their bodies, when it is, help me out somebody, when you are running and you feel that build-up of lactic acid in your stomach and you have to stop because you're having one of those moments when nobody knows going to help me out here.
What, that you're having a stitch?
A stitch, that's the word. You're having a stitch, thank you. When you are not getting enough oxygen in your body, when you are building up your lactic acid levels, where you are going through what's called anaerobic respiration. You are breaking down the sugars in your body which you need for producing energy, but you're not producing carbon dioxide and water as you should do. You're producing an acid, a lactic acid, which causes your muscles there to go stiff and tense very quickly. That's what happens when you're having a stitch. You are needing more oxygen in your system. And so that's why it's very important that while you're walking, running, doing your exercising, that you are maintaining as much as possible your oxygen levels in your tissues. Your body produces lactic acid as a partial excretory product in the lack of oxygen. Yeast produces a chemical compound, or one known as a particular type of compound, a type of alcohol called ethanol. So as an excretory product, as a result of anaerobic respiration, yeast excrete alcohol, and some people quite like drinking the excretory product of yeast that they excrete. I'm not suggesting anybody should drink their own excretion, but people will drink the excretory product of yeast. We try to get rid of that by using more oxygen to get rid of it. Likewise with lactic acid, on a similar level, another excretory product as a result of a lack of oxygen that causes the muscles to go stiff and tense. In the shortest of time that I've got here left here now, you can tell me what your breathing technique is, and please share that either through the chat or come online and share. But the recommended breathing approach would be to breathe through your nose rather. Every breath you take should go in and out through your nose. Obviously, when you're talking, you're going to be using air to come out through your mouth because that's the way sound is made. But if you're able to otherwise, do it all through your nose as much as possible, because that will help you to be as efficient as possible. When you breathe through your mouth, your lungs will get a lot more unfiltered air that's raw and cold and dry and full of viruses and bacteria. So use your nose to filter that out. You've got those hairs in your nose for a particular reason. And also, essentially, it's the shape of your nose, because your nose shape essentially tells of your place or countries of origin. I was asked a question at the start of this particular group meeting here. Where does my family come from? Essentially, people who are from of African, Caribbean origin, they tend to have flatter noses, broader noses with a shorter nasal passageway. People from European origins tend to have a longer nose, a more pointed nose, and God in his wisdom, or the way things have turned out through a process, means that If you've got a longer nose, it means that you come from a stock of people that had to warm the air because it was needed to warm the air from the nose to the back of the throat, to the base of the brain. The longer, more pointed nose allows the air to be warmed up. If you are not in a hot climate, then you don't need such a long pointed nose. You're happy to get by with a shorter, flatter nose. And that's, I guess, why there may well be differences between individuals as to what type of nose you have. But if you are a person of African, Caribbean origin, and you're in a cold climate, then please be careful to keep your nose warm when the time gets cold, and also to to ensure that you continue to breathe through your nose as efficiently as possible. This is something to bear in mind when you are breathing. We've said here numerous times, breathe with your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is like a sheet muscle. Unlike other types of muscles, your diaphragm is like a flat sheet that curves and separates your thorax from your abdomen. And so therefore, when you breathe, you should feel your abdomen moving out. 70 to 80% of your inhaling should be done by the diaphragm so that the breathing is nice and deep. If you're not doing so, then the air in your alveoli, in your lungs, becomes stagnant, and you're just reliant on the crossing over of gases in your lung region. You can provide more oxygen to your lungs by ensuring that you're taking the deep breaths, and I'll talk about that in a short while. It helps your lungs with the gas exchange because it's more efficient. Your diaphragm, it is known, massages, rubbed against, pushes your liver, your stomach, your intestines, helping them to be more rhythmical, more balanced, more effective, more efficient in the work that they do. Important for your lymphatic system as well too, that don't have the same kind of muscles in their vessels as your blood vessels do. Your lymphatic system primarily relies upon your voluntary muscles exercising against your striated muscles, helping your lymphatic system to be more efficient in getting lymph around your system. And so breathing in deeply helps your lymphatic system to work more efficiently. So ensure that your pressure in your chest and belly is decreased so that the heart won't have as much work to do. And the chest then becomes more relaxed, so and so does the neck and the shoulders as a result. And there's a likelihood the pain in those areas are likely to go down that much more. When you're breathing, let it be relaxed. No matter what you want to do, you'll be better if you are relaxed. Take that time out, since your breathing helps you to reflect and to think. It affects the way you even think. It even affects the way your heart beats. You can even have some control over those muscles, even of the heart, by relaxing in your breathing. And when your body's relaxed, your health is better, your energy is high, and just makes you a more happy, healthier, a more loving person. People who are always on edge, people who are breathing high, people who can't keep still, who don't have the time for people, those people generally with those kind of personalities, they just struggle and stress with everybody around. Just take some time out to breathe a little slower. Now, if you can do that rhythmically, just like the waves of the oceans or the seasons or the moon, your body is no different. Your heart, your brain, your hormones, all required to follow this natural rhythm. And then when everything is in tune, just like a 6-cylinder car that's just beating and pushing, that's how you're meant to be working efficiently. Breathing silently as best you can. If you're coughing or snoring or sniffling, you're not functioning efficiently. Something is not quite right. And it's easy to neglect these sounds, especially if you're doing it constantly and you're always producing. You get tuned into the noise that you make. But listen to yourself, or let someone listen to you. And before you take a sigh or a cough, you know that you'll need to take in a deep breath, but that then results in irregular breathing. Similarly, snoring is something that you're trying to compensate for because of the difficulties in breathing. And those are the things that you need to bear in mind. Here's an acronym to help you to remember how to breathe. There's these breath health triggers, and use this to help you to remember when to think about your breathing. It's a psychological kind of association. I said once every hour. If you tell yourself, right, every time the alarm clock goes off, I will check my breathing. Or even if you're just washing up the dishes, just tell yourself, right, every time I put in the last dish in the dishwasher, I'll check my breathing. Or every time you sit down at your desk, just use some kind of association. That will help. That every time you do that particular act, like closing the car door before you start off, even at the time that you pray before you start the car engine. Right, I'm going to start now. Just as you do something, associate that mentally with a breathing exercise, and then you're ready for your breathing. And if I can give you this as a reminder, breathe through the nose, exhale through the nose, inhale for 2 seconds, exhale for 3 seconds, pause between the two, and then repeat. Be aware that you're breathing, be aware of your posture, be aware that you're uptight, you're upright, not uptight, or if you're uptight, be aware that you need to relax and let go of any tensions. Nose, exhale, inhale, be aware, your posture, relaxed. There's a mnemonic to help you to remember how to breathe. Near your nose, exhale, be aware, relax. Anybody else got a view on breathing, your preferred breathing exercise before I close?
Can I just ask am I allowed to ask a question, or shall I
You're
ask
more than welcome to ask a quick question.
With the breathing, do we not, because obviously maybe this is wrong, taught that you breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth? So no?
The nose helps with the filtration process. It is good when you are breathing out through your mouth. Obviously, I have to do that right now because I'm talking as I say. That is the way it works. But if you can develop an exercise whereby you are relaxed in your breathing, and you're breathing, your nose is designed for breathing. Your mouth is used for other functions. Your nose, if you use your nose for your breathing in and breathing out, if you do so with your mouth, you are more likely to breathe out a lot quicker than you should be doing, unless you're very conscious about your breathing. And I was about to say, if anybody's about to come on with their breathing exercises, whereby they do the breathing in through the nose, and then they purse their lips, and breathe through their mouth for a good 30 seconds or so, then you're conscious at least of what you're doing. But if you're doing it as a regular thing and you're at your desk, you're working, it's best if you breathe through your nose and breathe out through your nose and keep your mouth shut. Not being rude, but that's the best way to maintain a good, constant wave-like motion. My prefer, or one technique that I think I like to use. I mean, some people use their 2 fingers on their diaphragm and to make sure that they can feel their hands rising upwards and outwards as they breathe in and breathe out. But at least the once an hour thing. Try this one. Try this one. You can do this even now. Breathe in, don't breathe out, just breathe in. Don't breathe out, just breathe in and hold, and hold, and hold, and then breathe in a bit more, and then breathe in a bit more, and then relax as you breathe out slowly. And then again, you would do that 3 times. Breathe in through your nose, hold it, and then when you think your lungs are full, take 2 snorts in and 2 more snorts in. And if you can take that long to breathe out, you've got good lungs. Right. Any more final questions or any other thoughts about breathing exercises?
There's Janet has her hand up again.
Okay, Janet, you're more than welcome to ask.
Yeah, I'm just going back to the oximeter. You
Yes.
mentioned the range of 98 to 100. On the little leaflet that comes with it, I think it says 97 to 100, but I just wanted to know, with regards to the upper limits, is it okay to be within the range, or should you be seeking to say, I need 100% saturation?
No, it won't be 100% saturation. 98, I mentioned, because that's what I've come across. 97, you can live by it. 96, think about your breathing exercises. People who were having breathing difficulties in during the COVID pandemic, and they were using oximeters as being their tools to measure their blood saturation, were experiencing less than 92, 90. I think I even came across people even in the 50, 60, 70% range. Then we know they've got a problem. But if you're in the upper 90s, then that's quite efficient. No, you don't need to expect 100%.
Do some people have 100% that constantly?
I don't know about constantly. When people are in hospital and they put the additional levels of oxygen in, through the nose to maximize as much as possible their oxygen levels, that's when by way of a fair mixture, but a good mixture of oxygen, perhaps, because you can't take pure oxygen because that would be damaging to your tissues. But when you have a fair mix of oxygen with your oxygen, you need a certain amount of carbon dioxide. It is about 78 to 80% nitrogen. In the air, there'll also be variable levels of water vapor. So it's never going to be 100% oxygen. You don't breathe in oxygen. You don't breathe out carbon dioxide. You breathe in and breathe out a mixture of the two. So it's not a perfect number of those figures, breathing in and breathing out. You are looking for your maximum. Yes, if it were to be 100, but 98% is still efficient. It's not something to be concerned about. 97%, according to your manual there, could still be considered to be acceptable. It's when you're getting down into the lower 90s or below 90, you need to be thinking about your breathing to improve your breathing. And if you're 80s and lower, then you need to be considering whether or not you've got a lung condition that you need to be paying attention to.
Okay, and thanks for that. And just one other question.
Yeah.
With regards to the breathing techniques,
Yes.
that I've read where you are not meant to hold your breath. I'm just wondering, what is the benefit of holding the breath and then and then when you think you can't hold anymore, then taking another sort of breath? Because I've read where, or maybe it's just different techniques, and I'm just wondering, is there any difference between where there's one technique where it was to breathe in and just to keep breathing in, but you were advised don't hold it. You're just meant to breathe in, not hold it at any point. Okay. I don't know if there's any difference.
Okay, let me answer that question. Let me deviate a slight little bit from kind of answer it. I'm going to deviate slightly a little bit by referring to True Temperance International and True Temperance and what temperance is. Temperance is doing in moderation things that are good for you and total abstinence of things that are bad for you. Things that are bad for you, then use your God-given intelligence to know what is bad for you. If somebody tells you smoking is bad for you or drinking alcohol is bad for you, whatever you know is bad for you, stop it. Don't do it. Don't do any of it. Things that are good for you, do it in moderation. It is possible to drink water, whether it be 1.5, 2 liters of water, but it is possible to overdo it. Likewise, when it comes to breathing, likewise, when it comes to oxygen, if there's too much oxygen in the air that we are breathing, it can cause brain damage. Many a child that's been given wrong levels of oxygen at birth has suffered damage as a result. Even you, if I said do it 3 times, if you do it more than 3 times, you'll start to feel dizzy. That's because there is too much oxygen in your system and you begin to feel a little bit dizzy. It is possible with temperance to have too much water, too much oxygen, that can cause you to feel unbalanced. The advantages of it, though, Janet, would be too many people breathe at a very shallow level. They do not maximize their lung capacity. So the recommendation is given so that you take every opportunity to widen and broaden and maximize your lung capacity right down to alveolar level, so that you increase that gas exchange from your pulmonary arteries and your lungs, and to ensure that as much oxygen, you've got the maximum surface area to increase the maximum amount of oxygen to go into your blood vessels, to take it then to your heart and elsewhere in your body. But at the same time, expiration, which is, to be more precise, inspiration, expiration is probably a better way of defining what we mean by external respiration, by which you get rid of the buildup of carbon dioxide in your tissues. And so you would breathe in to the maximum amounts of levels so that you can broaden as best you possibly can your bronchioles, your bronchi, your bronchioles, your alveoli, right down to the micro level of your lungs. You don't do it often, you don't do it all the time, you do it as a form of lung exercise. Just like you don't exercise your muscles all the time, you do it to a level whereby you've maximized your efficiency and then you rest.
So the holding of the breath is the maximizing the efficiency?
Not so much, no. It wasn't so much the holding of the breath. It was the intake after you think you've breathed in as deeply as you possibly can. There is actually a little bit more you can breathe in. And even when you think you've done that, there is a little bit more you can breathe in. Where does that go? That goes right down to alveolar level. So it's not so much the holding of the breath. I hold my breath even when I'm singing. Holding your breath is something, moderating your breath is something you do when you're talking, when you're singing. So you can hold your breath for a short while. You don't do it so that you starve your body, you starve your tissues and your brain of oxygen, because your blood is still pumping oxygen around the body. It's not so much that you're doing that, but what you are doing is maximizing as best as possible for that time allowable your lung capacity. And that will help with your later breathing. Promise you.
Okay, thanks, Cuz.
Oh dear. Bye, Janet. Right, is anybody else?
There are a few questions in the chat,
Okay.
but just
can I before we take those questions, Sharon, can I respectfully ask what time that we have left? Because I believe I may have gone over time already. So if I can do that in a moderated way.
okay. Yeah, we will aim to close out by 5 o'clock, so we have 20 minutes. If we go a bit, if you finish a bit earlier, that's fine. But
Good.
yeah, we aim to not keep people any longer than 5 o'clock. Is that all right?
That's fine.
Okay. Right. So yeah, I tried the exercise that you said about oxygen, holding the breath, and then taking a bit more, breathe in, take a bit more. Right. I could only breathe in and hold it, and then breathe in again once more.
Okay.
And I thought, oh. But then I realized, I gave it a little rest and then tried it again, and I could do 2 more. So I guess it's something that you can practice And the more you practice, the more you can actually squeeze a bit more into the alveoli.
That's all we're saying.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying. Exercising your lungs, not just by way of singing and talking at length, but exercising your lungs at that level. A book that's just coming to my mind is for those who have access to a book called The Voice in Speech and Song by an author called Ellen White. Some of you have heard of her. Has given good advice about how to breathe, and using singing and speaking and exercising your lungs to maximize the efficiency of your breathing. The Voice in Speech and Song.
Okay. I've never heard of that one, but that sounds like one for the bookshop, not just for the bookshop, but one to be purchased.
One to be purchased and read.
And read, yes, yes, sounds very good actually. But yeah, there are a couple of questions in the chat. I don't know if Charlene's available to read any of these out, or I shall continue. Okay, so you may have dealt with this one actually. A question is, why do people snore? I had to run outside to try and get the chicken back in the coop, so I missed a little bit. But yeah, why do people snore? That was one question.
Okay, so that's generally to do with the volume of the space in your airways from your larynx going down. And so when people are snoring, usually, and the taking of the breath coming in, it's usually because of the narrowing of the passageways. That can be as a result of extreme tiredness, over relaxation of those tissues. It can be due to you having an illness, a sickness of some sort. Some people experiencing a cough or a cold are likely during those times to experience the snoring. If it's happening every time that, actually, I'm going to be talking about sleep the next time we meet. So I may well be saying a little bit more about snoring then, but it is related to breathing. If you find that you are told that you are snoring, then you will be that you are not taking in efficiently as you could your air. It is being obstructed. If it's being obstructed, it's not going through freely. If it's not going through freely, you are not efficient, therefore, in your breathing. So if it is being obstructed, that causes the snoring, then you know that you're not being efficient. There are various devices that can be used to prevent you from that obstruction. There are devices that open up the nasal passageway, nasal devices that makes it that much more difficult. I'm sure there are other devices, and for people who've got extreme breathing difficulties with sleep apnea, which I'll speak of more the next time, then that is a result of those passageways so closed that it actually affects the amount of oxygen that you're getting whilst you're sleeping. Bearing in mind, as we said before, the heart is still pumping, the brain is still working, other tissues of your body still need oxygen. A lot of repair takes place whilst you're sleeping. A lot of healing takes place whilst you're sleeping. And because of that, you need the oxygen whilst you're sleeping. Because you're not that conscious. Again, for those, I know some of you are quite, okay, you might be averse to having a mobile phone in your room or next to your bed, but there are some apps that you can do so every now and again that will record your sleep patterns whilst you are sleeping. It will record your breathing rates, your snoring, and I'll mention the next time what's happening inside of your brain whilst you're sleeping. If you happen to have one of these devices as well on your wrist, they will also give you some idea as to your rest during sleep. I'll talk about that next time, but also, as mentioned just now, your breathing whilst you're sleeping. But that's what causes snoring, and that's the consequence of snoring as best as possible, as much as it's natural to some extent or normal to some extent. But if you know that you're snoring excessively for long periods of time, it is something to do with the efficiency of your breathing. And
Okay.
I guess I should also mention too that going back to the mouth and nose thing, if you are breathing in through your mouth whilst you're sleeping, because of your head position, etc., you are more likely to have a sore throat in the morning, or at least a dry throat in the middle of the night. Yes, have a glass of water at your bed head whilst during the night, but as best as possible, check out how you can best position yourself so that you can be sleeping without having to sleep through your mouth.
Okay, yeah, breathe through your mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So obesity can affect it as well, couldn't it?
Yes, so obesity, pressures, obesity, if that is to do with excessive levels of fat within your body, within your body, around your body organs, or within your vessels, anywhere that would be causing a restriction on the passageway of your throat, so excessive fat around your throat, etc., that can reduce the lumen space in your vessels to be restricted, causing you and across your sound boxes of your larynx, causing you to be making noises, snoring as you're breathing in. So yes, that is one indicator that that you are overweight. If you are snoring as you sleep, another indicator that is something that you might need to pay attention to. I'm not saying that in itself is an issue or problem, but I'm just saying that that is an indicator of the efficiency of your respiration, of your taking in of oxygen that you need throughout the night whilst you're asleep.
Okay, thank you. Now, Carl did put a question on the chat, or he has put a question, and I'm not sure if you've answered it in what you were saying, but I'll read the question. And Carl, if you can just speak up and just say whether or not Colin's answered your question. So, hi, Colin, thanks for your talk so far. And how could you best keep check of your breathing if you've been told to better your breathing for reducing your blood pressure? So do you want me to read?
Yeah, because that you need to be mindful of your blood pressure. You need to be mindful of your breathing. Yes, there are some connections, as I mentioned to you before. The more you're mindful of your breathing, the more you're conscious of how you're breathing, will also help to reduce heartbeat rate and blood pressure. There is a connection there. I'm not too sure. Is that addressing the question as Carl has put it?
The question was more how best to keep check. Oh, Carl's on here. Here we go. Thank you.
Hey, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
Yes. Hi, Colin. Hi, everyone. I've spent a lot of time in the hospital, and I will get the oxygen rate on the machine will show very often 100%. So it's generally between 100 and 98 to 100%. But what I've been told is I should be doing a breathing exercise that would help to get my blood pressure under control, and that's my challenge. That I can get a decent blood pressure with medication, but it feels like what it's doing, it's the medication is hampering the heart.
Okay.
To get a lower blood pressure. That's how it feels.
Okay.
And so what I'm looking at is a natural way to do that. And what I was told is a good breathing exercise could benefit So that's
Okay.
what I'm really looking at.
Okay, so what I think is going on there in terms of the advice you're receiving, and always please do check and double check and make sure you have a clear understanding of what is expected of you medically. High blood pressure essentially is due to the restriction of your blood vessels, primarily your arteries, that not allowing the same volume of blood to be going through at the same paces, and so therefore that causes the blood pressure to increase. What causes those blood vessels to decrease in volume can be a number of things that includes diet. So excess cholesterol and fats inside those blood vessels can cause increase in blood pressure. Stress levels and the hormones that are related to your stress levels can also cause your blood vessels to constrict in vasoconstriction, I believe it's called. That is the normal cause of your blood vessels to decrease. Now, they are controlled nervously, but also hormonally, that your hormone levels can cause your blood vessels to constrict or dilate. How do you have control over your hormone levels, given that blood pressure is more so to do with your diet, your salt levels and your water levels and so on? So the question there, is there a connection between your breathing and your blood pressure? And I would say psychologically, mentally, there is a connection in that, and I think this is what was implied in the recommendation, in that if you take the time to breathe, to think about your breathing, when you are in that relaxed state of mind, and you do so, say, once per hour or so, that you are in a frame of mind, because that once per hour will have a long-lasting effect that will help your breathing rate throughout the rest of that hour. Your breathing will have an effect upon, yes, your lungs, but in so doing, mentally, you are relaxing. Your cortisol levels going to be reducing. You're going to be that much more at peace and at rest because you're taking the time to relax and to breathe. That is what helps to bring down your blood pressure levels.
Okay. It's what I'm learning. Exactly what you're saying there is actually, if I'm doing it every hour, then it will help. It just seems funny that what I was being told was, oh, you just need to do this exercise and do it a few times, and it's not affecting my blood pressure at all. But maybe if I'm doing it very regularly, so every hour, yes.
Yes.
So, yes, thank you.
Yes. Do a check on yourself every hour. So I'm not selling Samsung or anything else like that. It's just that this particular device, again, on my wrist, it gives me a reminder once an hour. It's done so. It tells me, stand up, do some stretching exercises, do some twists and so on. This tells me as a device on my wrist, and I know it's a bit high tech and so on, but use whatever device, use a countdown device, or use an alarm clock on your phone or on your watch. That alarm clock to say at 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock. You can just do that on your phone every day. It can be just a vibrate. It doesn't need to interrupt meetings that you're in. Just on a vibrate, because you know what that vibration means. It means stand up, taking some deep breaths, and get on with the rest of the day. But as that on a daily basis, you can ignore it because you're in a meeting or you're at church or whatever. You can ignore it, but it's just there as a reminder once or several times a day. Get up, do some exercises, go around, do the breathing exercises, and right, done that for an hour or two. Let me get on with my day now.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
You're welcome, Carl. And thanks for the promo earlier on today.
Okay, thank you very much for that, and thank you for your question, Carl. Right, so I believe Colin. Oh,
yes,
it was the hand by Janet, but I'm just for those who joined us later. Colin's kind of did a promo for himself, saying that you know, I'm going to be doing a presentation on sleep again. So for those of you who missed it, the part 2 is coming in 2 weeks' time. And if you look at the poster, we've got the title on there, but we can fly it through this screen share again. And I think we have maybe one more question, and then that should be it.
Okay.
There was a suggestion. Veronica Williams said spirometers are a great lung strengthening tool, and it's not expensive. So spirometers, correct me if I'm wrong, but those are the apparatus that you breathe through to check your lung capacity, and it will give you a measure as to how much lung capacity you have, and then you can test it every so often, and you'll see whether or not there's an increase. There's a way to do it. You do 3 attempts and you go with the best of 3.
Okay. So
Well,
just to
actually,
say,
the spirometer that I'm referring to, and I don't know if it's different there, but the spirometer that I'm referring to is you set it to a certain level, and then it has a hose that you breathe into, and you tell the person you're wanting to use it to try to push as much as they can to that level that you set it. It gives them a goal to reach for, to push to, instead of having someone count or them look at a clock. They try to push it to that level, and that will increase their lung capacity as they practice it. And it's very cheap. It's plastic, it's washable, and I highly recommend it for especially elderly. And it's also good just to keep you, it's also great to get your lymphatic system moving.
okay.
Thank you for that, Veronica.
Thank you, Veronica. Yes, so thank you for that, Veronica. You've given us an additional thought there regards to the use of a spirometer. A meter, as in any other kind of meter, is a measuring tool. It measures the strength of your lungs in terms of your breathing out. Particularly people who've got breathing difficulties, say as a result of asthma or some other respiratory disease, will have that identified as a result of having a spirometer test. It is essentially, though, a test for breathing out at force. And the purpose of it is to measure your breathing capacity, especially the force with which you can breathe out. That is essentially the primary use of that type of spirometer that you're referring to there. I would also say that if you're going to use lung strengthening tool, a lung strengthening tool, because we're talking about internal organs, the best lung strengthening tool is exercise and good breathing exercises.
Amen.
Well, yeah, in terms of strengthening the lungs and the capacity of the lungs. Of course, do other things like, good singing. I mean, singing is not just there for you to make a noise. Singing, whether it be choral, yeah, you can do singing in the shower, but there are additional benefits to joining in a choir and doing good, proper singing at least once or twice a week, where you're exercising the lungs to the maximum. Do that too to help strengthen the capacity of your lungs and the muscle capacity of your lungs. That's also helpful in terms of strengthening your lungs.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because this morning I was at church, and we know that there's some people that are unable to go to church, so they're watching on Zoom. And one of the things I said, because I was the song leader, was those of you who are at home, please join us. We won't be able to hear you, but you can sing along as well. And it's enjoyable. You feel like you're part of it, and you are exercising. So maybe if I'm up there again, I'll remind people that they are exercising their lungs as they give praise to the Almighty.
And
so,
as you're using that as an example, don't let it be, for 1,000 tongues to sing my great. Let it sound like 1,000 tongues. That's giving praise to your Redeemer. In other words, use your entire being, in this act of worship to praise God with. But if you're singing, sing from the deepest depths of your soul, because if you're doing so, you're breathing from the depths of your soul.
Indeed. Thank you so much. So there was a question from Janet, a hand from Janet, and then unless we've dealt with it. And
can I just very quickly dealt with Veronica's question? No, asthma,
yeah.
if you have asthma or suspect if you have asthma, or if you have any kind of breathing difficulties, the spirometer will be the way by which you will measure or at least give an initial indication as to the power of your lungs and your lung capacity, that there is indeed a problem there. So anyone who's got breathing difficulties, certainly have it checked with the spirometer. When I've used spirometer in public health awareness training programs, it's not until they've come to us, and I've done a spirometer test with them, that they realize actually the smoking 10 cigarettes a day is actually having an impact on their breathing capacity. So whether it be asthma or any other kind of breathing difficulty, it's a spirometer test that will often unsurface that to let you know that there is a problem. So on the contrary, have the spirometer test done. But what I'm saying is that the spirometer, you breathe in as quickly as you possibly can within a short amount of time. It tells you, it gives an indication as to the power of your lungs, but as an exercise to strengthen your lungs, you need to do a little bit more than just breathing out at a fast rate. At the moment, there, Sharon, I can't.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Sorry, I was muted. I was talking to Edgar. Exercising my lung capacity. Janet, you have a hand, and then we'll wrap up and see if Colin has a challenge for us.
Yes, Colin, I just wanted to know, when you mentioned that the smartphone could take all your vital sort of readings, etc. I'm just wondering, how does it do that? I mean, do you have to be linked up? How can your phone, which is, you know, not attached to you, take all of your readings?
The word phone is just another electronic computer-based device. So don't get hung up on the word phone. A phone is another computer that you have next to you. If you're asking how does this work, how does it work? It works by, for those of you who wish to use it, and I know about the various views that people may have regarding having a phone in the bedroom, etc. I'm talking about the one-off just to check how you are sleeping in the night. And what the phone will do, it will pick up on your body movements, it will pick up on your vibrations, it picks up on your breathing, it picks up on the deepness of your breathing, or the shallowness of your breathing, or if you're making noises whilst you're sleeping, whether it be snoring. And then in the morning, you can play all of that back. It will tell you that you've been snoring for a certain percentage of the night. It tells you how restful your night has been, or not, as the case may be, that you've had a restless night or otherwise. You'll be able to hear your breathing rates, especially if it is deep breathing. As I said, next time that we talk, we'll be talking about your various stages of sleep and what happens at those various stages. But that device, the phone device will help you to do that. When it's linked to, and you can have it linked to a smartphone, the smartphone and smartwatch will talk to each other, that every time you move, whether it be your foot or your wrist, it will give you some idea as to how well you've slept throughout the night. And so they will talk to each other in that respect. If you do want to use it to the maximum, you can have it help you to play some white noise as you fall off to sleep, or some tranquil hymn music, so that you get into the sleep, and then it lulls you into a sleep, and then leaves you there to sleep through the night, and then it will not monitor your sleep patterns as you sleep. And then, rather than relying on somebody in the night to tell you that you snore, no, you have something a little bit more objective, even more scientific, if I may say, to give you that actual accurate feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so sorry, I keep changing my phone angle because my phone's about to die. Right, so Thank you for that. Thank you for that answer. Now, Charlene, I just need you to enable make computer 2 a co-host so I can share the video on that device. Thank you. So thank you so much, Colin, for letting us know about our heart being sweet. Do you have a sweetheart? So yeah, I do like the play on words there. I do like it because it, you know, we talk about loving our hearts. Why not have a sweet heart? Why not call it a sweetheart?
Well, there's a reason why not, so you don't get in trouble. That's another subject.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I hear you, but you know,
But it's
we know what you
word.
meant.
Yeah, we all know what we mean. We know what we mean. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, keep your heart sweet, keep it healthy, keep it good. Look after your heart, and it will look after you.
So what challenge do you have? A simple challenge then. It could even be something that you've already said to help us to have a sweet heart.
Yeah. Thank you for that very contemplative pause between sweet and heart there. So how do you know your heart is sweet? How do you know that it is sweet? In other words, how do you know your heart is healthy? You know by doing your checks. And it's been mentioned, yes, if you are going to take on a challenge, it's just, if you've been here for the last hour and some, and you've heard what I've said about taking your pulse rate throughout the day, after a meal, after an activity, that's one challenge. Exercising for 20 minutes at least per day at double your normal heartbeat rest rate for at least 3 times a week. Finding a way that you are checking. We've talked about your breathing rate. I'm saying these as being challenged as 3 separate activities. If you want to come back the next time we're on this platform to say, how have you checked that your heart is still sweet?
Okay. Okay, I like that one.
The importance is in the checking bit.
Because even if it's not, yeah, it's not the results, it's more the, have you done anything about, yes, you've watched the presentation, but what have you done about it?
Yeah.
So initially when I asked you about the exercise question in your Let's Get to Know About Colin, when we first came on, you said that you liked to do walking indoors or outdoors or treadmill walking indoors. And, you know, there's so many different ways that you can get your exercise, whether it is Zumba, as I alluded to earlier, or bouncing on a rebounder, which is going to help you with your lymphatic system, as well as your cardiovascular system, cardiorespiratory health, rather, I should say. And so, yeah, so find something that you like. It could be you've got an allotment, you know, and then you're going to benefit from nutrition as well at the same time, and sunshine and fresh air. And then you'll feel tired, and then you'll be able to go to bed early or sleep well. So there's so many different ways we can get the exercise that we so need to not just look after our heart, but to look after many other aspects, because we are an interconnected system. So I really do appreciate that talk, Colin. And I'm sure I'm not the only person who does.
Thank you.
And hopefully in 2 weeks' time, we'll see you again and we'll hear what people have to say.
Okay, I look forward to it.
Thank you so much. So before we close out today, I don't know what Edgar's saying to me. Before we close out today, we're going to share with you the Come Apart and Rest a While. So the frog, I do like the frog, but we won't just be lying down on our backs like a frog. And we'll be able to do a bit more than that when you come to Kevin Lee. So I'm just wondering if the video is ready to show, Edgar. Okay, I think it is. I will mute.
peace, and calm.
All right, here we go. Come Apart and Rest a While is a one-week holistic retreat in the relaxed rolling hills of the Welsh countryside. With something for everyone, from health checks and massages to seminars on country living, cooking demonstrations and the use of herbs, this conference brings together ministries from around the British Isles, sharing their experience and knowledge with you in a health retreat environment. Running from the 29th of August until September the 4th at the Stephen Lee Conference Centre. Whether it's for the week, the weekend, or just a day, your short vacation will exceed your expectation. And with food services ranging from self-catered to plant-based meals, and with comfortable spaces available from ensuite chalets to leisure homes and caravans, you can enjoy your tranquil accommodation. So take some rest, be refreshed, and make sure to make your reservation today. See you there.
Okay. Okay, so I hope you found that quite relaxing to watch, and also as something for you to look forward to for those of you who are actually attending. We really do look forward to meeting you, and we pray that everything will go smoothly, the weather will go well, and everyone who is planning to get there will get there safely, and we'll have a fantastic time together. Okay. If there's anything that I've missed, Charlene, are you able to add to or respond to, or Dr. Colin? No? Okay, I'm seeing a no from you, Charlene. Thank you. And so, sorry, I'm not sure what Edgar's saying. He's saying, Charlene, can you speak? Maybe she's unable to unmute because baby or something. I'm not sure.
No, baby's making too much noise.
We can't hear you, Shell. Okay.
Nothing from me, Sharon.
Because this is. I'm sure you're saying something, Charlene, but it's my it's the volume on my device. It's turned right down. So yeah, right. So thank. No. Okay. Sorry, I'm just waiting for the volume on the device to go up. So Charlene, can you just say something, please?
Thank you, Dr. Colin, for your presentation, and we look forward to the presentation in 2 weeks' time. And thank you for the enhancement to sorry if it's echoing, to let us know that we must look after our hearts and to exercise it really and look after it. So thank you.
Yep, and so we will be taking up the challenge. You can even ask us when you come back on in 2 weeks' time. What have we done as the TTI team? I'm not sure who's going to be hosting it. Probably won't be me. So whoever's hosting, it might even be Shirley. No, I don't know who it's going to be. We'll see. Could be one of our hosts from South Africa, or a couple even. So yes, you can find out what we've done as a team, and hopefully there'll be others reporting back. So at this point, we invite those who are on YouTube to say goodbye, and I'll wave. Goodbye. Okay. And goodbye from Colin.
That's a goodbye from him. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, and thank you for all your lovely comments there in the chat as well, everybody. Appreciate your comments, Shirley, and there was Carl earlier on and others. And thank you for attending. So without further ado, we will say goodbye. Have we gone? No, we're still live on YouTube. So goodbye, those of you who are on YouTube. And those of you who are not on YouTube, you have an opportunity to unmute and just say hi